And this gives a sense of accomplishment to the listener. He feels he's got somewhere. Where? Well, somewhere not where he began, but somewhere not too far away. He goes for a visit to the cousins, we'll say, or the in-laws. Of course, after making several cadences in these near-related keys, ultimately he does come back home and finishes up in his own key. So here we are in the dominant key, G minor. There you are. And the way I like to play it is to make a slight retard, perhaps, not too much of a one, just slow up a little, a certain emphasis to show, well, here we are, we've come here. Also, it might be useful to make a change of dynamics after that. You come to a cadence, often loud, and then you start what follows a little softer. It's unfortunate that many people playing these fugues don't sometimes don't respect these cadences or don't pay enough attention to them. They just go on and on and on, and this will create a certain lack of interest, a certain boredom, a certain monotony, people will say. The cadences are essential to a proper appreciation of the forward movement, the process of a fugue. All right, we go on from this section point here. And then we have another episode, which is very similar to one we had before. We had one here. This time we have the thing, the voice is reversed. The little scale line is in the middle, but this figure is in the bass. There's some extra notes which are in the middle. Again, the scale line is in the bass this time, and the other figure in the middle. The original and another episode. The fugues almost all make for some kind of climactic feeling near the end. Almost every Bach fugue that I know piles up sonorities near the end. There is what you might call a punch line in almost every Bach fugue. Sometimes it's a high note, sometimes it's a very powerful bass. And one ought to give the composer credit for this feeling that all his work has been toward a glorious end. When I say glorious, I mean a logical end, an end that justifies the beginning. So, you have it here, finally, the subject is in the bass at the end. And then, of course, there's an expansion of that last cadence chord. Just to look at the prelude of this. This is a prelude which is based on just a figure. There is no polyphony in this, no voices. It's just what pleasure there is in it is in the pleasure of the motion of the fingers and also in the progression of the harmonies. There's your statement in the key of C minor, ending on a tonic. There we are. Now, recitative passage. It's quite dramatic. And the end comes not far from that is, the fulfillment comes not far from the real end. It's a wonderful example of suspended point. That is, the point of this thing, the whole point of the latter part of the prelude, is the fact that he does come back to his own key of C minor, but he lets you wait for it. He keeps you on edge before he finally hits it. I'll play this prelude in a few for you in my way, and you get what I mean. One of the best known fugues, and I thought maybe I would give you an example of that. I think from my remarks you can see what I mean by a certain feeling of absolute compulsion, of necessity in a composition of this kind. The thing moves, it starts out with a premise or two premises, moves on and works out to an inexorable conclusion. The end justifies the beginning. Every end is a triumph of its kind. Now, this happens to be one that I interpret in a rather vigorous way, but there are others that are more quiet. I'll play you the first one in the first book. This is taught relatively rarely. The fugue is rather difficult. It's a four-voice fugue. Here, I would say say there is no well-defined counter-subject. It's not too well-defined. It doesn't occur frequently. He invents new counterpoints for every announcement of the subject. But again, you get this magnificent sense of fulfillment at the end. The prelude, of course, is familiar to you. It's just a set of chords. But even there is a purpose in these progressions. It's just a broken chord. But it isn't just a random set of broken chords. You again have the same principle, the same relationship of desire for both unity and variety. He establishes a key. He has 3 or 4 chords, all leading back to the original tonic to begin with. Then he goes on a little journey, goes to G major, goes to various other keys among that little group of 6, and finally reaches an organ point on the dominant of his original key. And that is held for a long time. Real suspense is created. You realize that that dominant is going to come home sometime, but he keeps you waiting for it, which adds to the interest, and then it feels so good when you get there. There's your established key. Now departure. I want to play you one of my favorites, which still shows up a different phase. Bach is a tremendous musical intellect. Of course, we know that. A tremendous master craftsman, joiner, carpenter. Yes. But also, I'm aware of a tremendous visceral strength. Strength visceral, that's a nice fancy Latin word. It means guts. It means that's some kind of feeling that comes from the inside. That's one thing. The other one I feel is also a tremendous muscular strength. I've seen portraits of Bach, and one is impressed with it. Now, I don't think of him as a tall man. On the contrary, he may be middle-sized to short, but enormous shoulders. There's a feeling of muscular pleasure that you get out of his music. And I just wanted to play you the first prelude and fugue from Book 2, the C major. I'll play it without my notes. The prelude is sort of free, seemingly, in rhythm, yet it's also a tightly knit work. You seem to find various stages, dynamic stages. You begin with a strong announcement, and then comes a very gentle place, and then it gets higher and higher and higher, and finally comes to a stop in the subdominant. The thing is in C major, and the stop is in F. Then back down again, and all the previous material, or a lot of it, comes again, but transposed so that it ends in the tonic. Now, as for the fugue, well, I don't know about about what some people think of Bach. They think he's a plaster saint or something like that. All I'll say is that that fugue is more like jazz than it's like almost anything else I can think of. All right, number one.